Hello everyone and welcome. DNS traffic analysis or DNS performance monitoring, especially in large networks, can be very tricky and labor intensive. You're always beating the clock to find the problem, and when you do find the problem, getting to the root cause involves taking packet captures, bringing them up in packet analysis tools like Wireshark, and then drawing custom columns and custom metrics just to exemplify the root cause. My name is Ishan Kapoor and I'm a tech evangelist with Riverbed. And in this video, I'm going to showcase in AppResponse 11's new 11.12 release, the 3 new insights that we've developed, as well as a bonus feature that will make DNS traffic analysis and performance monitoring a lot easier. So let's get started with the demo and let's begin. All right, so let's get started and have a look at how you can start off enabling the DNS traffic analysis in AppResponse 11. So straight away, you'll go under administration to the DNS analysis menu option under feature settings, and you'll arrive at the enable disable button. So it is somewhat processor and resource intensive to do DNS analysis. So by default, it's unchecked. So you'll have to go in and check this button to get any sort of DNS analysis done by AppResponse. And in addition, if you want, you can import some geography to IP map if you're using some IP space that can be easily mapped to a geography. You can go ahead and set that up. And one additional point to make is under filters. Keep in mind that by default, DNS AppResponse is only looking for DNS traffic on the UDP port 53. So if you do have TCP DNS traffic, be sure to add that to this list before you hit enable or even after you hit enable. And at that point, AppResponse will be able to look at traffic, both UDP and TCP for DNS. Okay, very good. So we've completed all the configuration that we need to enable AppResponse to look for DNS traffic and do the analysis. Now let's look at what happens once the traffic is being analyzed by AppResponse, and what are the various views and what are the various insights we can gain out of AppResponse. So the first insight that we look at is the DNS transactions. You can get to it by clicking on the insights menu, and it's the last item in the DNS list. It's an HD insight, which means everything that's happening on the wire, every DNS transaction that's transpiring through the monitoring ports will be analyzed and will be displayed here, which can be very powerful, but also can have some responsibilities along with it for the end user. Is because if there's a lot of DNS traffic that's going on the wire, potentially this page can take a lot of time to load. If you're looking at a very long time, if the data points just can inundate the web page. So for that, AppResponse provides you with these input filters. Essentially, these are filters for you to limit the IP address of the DNS server by the clients or the ports for the clients that they're connecting to, the TCP or UDP ports. That is the server, a DNS server or host groups. So and these are some of the particulars on how AppResponse does the grouping of IPs. So host group, but some of the obvious things are what kind of queries, for example, that you're running. And the nice thing about this particular widget is that it auto-populates based on the traffic that you're seeing on the wire, of the AppResponse is seeing on the wire. You can also search by query name. So this is also, again, luckily auto-populate, is it sees all the query names that are being sent on the wire and it auto-populates them based on what the user would like to search for. So right now, I'm just going to look at everything. So I'm looking at essentially all the DNS transactions that are flowing through the wire. The pie chart widget here shows you how many number of DNS queries were seen with error. We see a nice little response time here. And a quick note, this is general to all of the AppResponse insights. So that once you see these 3 dots, you can actually change the metrics that you want to be presented. You can change what type of information you want to be presented. You can remove certain types of information. You can add different types of information depending on what is allowed in the insight. So please keep in mind to double check and click on these 3 dots if you don't like something. And for example, I've done the same thing here. I've created a custom view off of the DNS transactions insight. I've created a custom insight. And I've made a few changes. So I've included, for example, the DNS query name. I'd like to see exactly what queries are being seen by the AppResponse and whether there's a status code error or no error. And you can add, again, a lot of other metrics or other columns that you'd like to be seen in the bottom table. And these are the actual transactions. So these are whatever DNS transactions are occurring on the wire that AppResponse is monitoring. If you do if you do have the ability to provide an IP to geography map, you can also see this nice little heat map within this particular insight where it shows you the number of DNS requests, for example, a heat map of where the most requests originate from, and also the heat map of where the slowest DNS requests originate from. And again, another few methods in which the information is essentially sliced and diced. We take the DNS transactions and provide you the various slicing and diced interpretations of the data, just so that it's easier for you to look at patterns and groups, so that you can find out if there are some genetic problems happening overall on certain parts of your network, certain users, or certain query types. So this is the first insight, DNS transactions, and pretty simple. Let's move on to the next. Okay, next we have DNS servers. So again, you can just get to it by clicking on Insights and then going under DNS and picking DNS servers. This is also an HT insight, which means, again, you're seeing every single transaction that is transpiring through the monitoring ports. And it's very similar. You have a banner up top, which gives you the important highlight statistics, and you can change them here. One thing to note, interestingly, is the response times. 95th percentile response time is also calculated and presented here at the top of the metric. Next up, we have basically just a chart that you can use to look at. This is more, it seems, from a DNS problematic servers or problematic IPs, server IPs perspective. So we try and highlight and tell you the slowest DNS servers or DNS servers with errors and with timeouts. In my case, I only have 2 DNS servers, so it's bringing out both of those nicely, and tells us that like the lab.local is the one that's facing most of the errors, and it's kind of a summary view of all of the DNS servers, or the top DNS servers that are present in the traffic being observed. So again, pretty simple. You can go in and make all the changes, and if you want to change any graph metric or any summary metric, you can do that, and then save the insight by your name, and that's pretty much it. All right, on to our last insight, which is the DNS server. It's almost a segue from the previous insight, which is DNS server. So once you know some of the bad servers, you can then drill further in, and as you can see, you can provide the IP address of the server that you want to investigate, and it'll give you some more insights and details on what's happening with that server. So you'll see a true plot here, which shows you the errors, the error DNS error codes or DNS error transactions if they have taken place with a different color, and it'll show you the successful ones. And of course, you can change the metric if you'd like to change, instead of seeing successful, if you'd like to see maybe some other metric, the number, for instance, you can do that here as well. But essentially, it's a way of studying the DNS server a little bit more, getting a high level summary of what's happening there. We can see the DNS errors in a time series graph, the timeouts. In my case, there have been no timeouts, so it's all blank. And then it gives you a further visualizations on what's happening with the DNS queries for those servers. Where are the server queries coming from? If you've got the GeoIP map set up properly, you'll see a heat map similar to this, and also kind of a bubble visualization of where what the top queried domains are. And in my case, there's a whole lot of domains being queried, and being, there's this miscellaneous domains as well. But you can see some of the Microsoft one seems are the top ones. And also, if you scroll further down, it shows you some of the opcodes and what kind of query types are being requested in the traffic that is going through. So again, really useful. It can give you a lot of information about the poor performance of a particular IP of particular servers, or if particular sets of users, as in this case with the heat map, are having the worst time. And again, these are just cool visualizations. All of these are customizable. If you don't prefer the heat map, if you just like a table view, for instance, of some of these poorest response time, you can get that as well. And you know, change some of the insights here. Ultimately, it's all the same transaction data that is being rendered in all these visualizations. So it's really the data gathering is, according to me, the most powerful piece. And that is the last insight. A bonus feature in the DNS traffic analysis is the DNS Transaction Search. You can get to this feature by clicking on Transactions in the web UI, and under DNS, you'll see DNS Transaction Search right there. Once you arrive, it will present you with a web UI that looks exactly like this. On the left-hand side, you have some pre-grouped queries. And at the very top, you have a search bar, and then you have the true plot, as we typically see in all transactions, and then the actual data points and search results down at the bottom. So this gives you the flexibility that the other insights don't provide, which is it allows you to search through your data set of DNS transactions using a search query or search expression that you can customize and build based on various key conditions that you see over here. And this will allow you to search for DNS transactions, DNS request responses that otherwise would be hard to find using just a IP address or an opcode or some limited set of filtering conditions that are available in the past insights. So this is really powerful, and you can build your search expression to actually nicely filter down or narrow down on the results. And once you do, there are some further auto grouping that happens on the left-hand side that can again be helpful in providing insights on why you're seeing certain servers. For example, here are the servers that are the DNS servers that are part of the search results here. Here are the client groups, the client countries, and so on, if you've got the GeoIP mapping properly done. So again, you know, overall, a really helpful insight that I think will be very powerful in the enterprise wide DNS performance issues out there. And up until this point, the UDP, particularly DNS traffic, wasn't something that was analyzed by AppResponse, but starting from this release, it is. So thank you again, and see you in the next video.